Hey, Sally and Jose. Okay, welcome to lesson 6.5. This is called Consumer Price Index, which is the CPI for food. Okay, Consumer Price Index means like how much is the price of food in general going up every year, because it goes up every year. You can look at the graph which we'll look at soon in a second, and you're going to see that it increases every year. Okay, this is interesting. I like this graphic right here to show you that a certain amount of money could buy this much groceries in 1980. That same amount of money can only buy this much groceries in 1995. Okay, so pretty interesting how the amount of food, the price of food goes up every single year. So look what it says about the Consumer Price Index. The Consumer Price Index, the CPI, measures the change in the average prices for certain goods and services during a specific time period. Okay, so right now we're talking about food. Each month, the Bureau of Labor Statistics determines the CPI based on the price changes for the month compared to the base, which was 1982 and 1984. So between 1982 and 1984, it's given 100%, okay? Whatever the number was, whatever the price of food was in 1982 to 1984, that's the base, that's where everything starts, okay? So other years are given a percentage of that base year. So for example, if you look at the blue box right here, you're going to see that in 1970, the CPI is 39.2. So that means that the price of food was 39% in 1970 that it was in 1982. So the price of food went way up because in 1970, it was only 39% of what they were paying. Okay, in 1975, it was 59% of what they were paying in 1982. In 1980, it was 86% of what they were paying in 1982. But look at 1985. After 1982, 1985, 1990, 1992, 1993, 1994, it's all more than 1982, which obviously makes sense because it's always increasing every single year. Okay? Look back at what it says. The Bureau publishes a monthly and yearly CPI for food. Beginning in January 1978, the CPI was published for two groups. The CPI-U, okay, that's why you see that U, is the Consumer Report Index for all urban consumers, is a new support that can be used by about 80% of the non-institutional civilian population. So we use the CPI-U. Most normal people use the CPI-U. Some people, though, use the CPI-W, which is a revision of the old CPI and is an urban wage earners and clerical workers CPI, in which you don't even see that mentioned in this lesson, so we don't care. You can use the CPI to compare the cost of food from year to year. You might want to write on the top of this lesson. This lesson is all about ratios, okay, because you're going to be using the ratio of the CPI from one year to the next year to figure out the amount of money that you're spending on food or the amount of income, okay? Look what it says. You can use the CPI to compare the cost of food from year to year. Notice that the CPI for 1990 is 132.4. The price of food in 1990 had increased an average of 32.4% since 1982 and 1984, when the CPI was 100. Therefore, food costing $100 in 1982 would cost $132.42 because you increase it by 32%, which means you have to multiply it by 132.4. The bar graph on page 151 illustrates the increasing cost of food by using CPI. That's what we talked about a second ago. Obviously, you should usually assume you will pay more for the same amount of food and type of food next year than you did this year, okay? Food prices are always going up. So look at model problem number 1. In 1970, when the CPI-U was 39.2, the Thompsons spent an average of $50 per week. Okay, so like I told you, it's going to be ratios. So let's say 1970. When the CPI is 39.2, they were spending $50 a week on food. What was their weekly food bill in 1980 for the same type and average and amount of food? So now we want to find the X amount of dollars. In 1980, we'll look up here in your bar graph, and you're going to see the CPI for 1980 is 86.8. Okay, so now we have the CPI on top, the dollars on the bottom, we're going to crisscross and multiply. So we got 86.8 times 50 It's going to give you 4,340, and then you divide it by 39.2. If you don't believe me, then write out your equation like we normally do. $110.71 is your answer for how much I spent on food in 1980. Okay, that's model problem number 1. Model problem number 2. Let's look at it. It says, in 1975, the Jacksons had an annual income of $12,600. Annual income of $12,600 and spent 20% of their income on food. In 1994, they still spent 20% of their income on food, but their income had increased at the same rate as the cost of food. Okay, so the same rate. That's why we're going to use ratios. To the nearest $100, what was the Jackson's annual income in 1994? Okay, we need to know the income. We don't know it yet. That's our X. What are we going to put down here? We're going to put down the CPIs. Okay, so remember, ratios, this can go on the top or it can go on the bottom. Doesn't matter as long as these two are on the same spot, right? Okay, the CPI for 1975 is 39.2. And the CPI for 1994 is 144.3. Okay, then we just crisscross and multiply to find the income, because they're not asking you for the amount of food. What was the price of food? If they were asking you for that, you had to do this answer and then get 20% of that, but they did not ask you that. They asked you for the annual income. So I did this times this divided by this. So your answer is going to be 46,382. What? I got it wrong. What I do? I got it wrong. Let's see. Oh, I did the wrong CPI. 1975. Whoops. This should be 59.8. Pardon. Let's try that again. $30,400. Yep, there we go. 30,404 is what I got, which is the same thing. Okay, so there you go. Look at number 1. Number 1's answer is $76.28. You're gonna have to do a ratio on that. So let me know if you have any questions on how to get that as your answer. Okay, the other ones you should be able to do. Let me know if you need any help. Bye.